Be prepared, be secured, and be ready. That's the theme for this year's National Disaster Prevention and Preparedness Month, which is happening all month long in May. Last year we did it and we spoke about it and we were able to get prepared for the wet season. This year we're going to do the same. And we're chatting with Major General Rodney Smart, retired Major General Rodney Smart, the CEO of the ODPM, as well as the Director of the Drainage Division at the Ministry of Works and Transport, Ms. Katherine Badloo Doerga. Good morning and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us.
It's lovely to have you here in person. I feel like we've been chatting for a year via Zoom. But tell me, Major General, what's the plan this year? We're being prepared, we're being secured, and we're being ready. But how are we doing that in this month?
So, if I could start by saying that the importance of this month to Trinidad and Tobago. And in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, you know, the ODPM had this innovative idea. We felt it was necessary, given the circumstances, that Trinidad and Tobago became more resilient. So we took this idea that we had to have this disaster month, Prevention and Preparedness Month, and we took it to the Minister of National Security, who embraced the idea one time. He took it to the cabinet agreed that Trinidad and Tobago must have annually a month where we're going to focus attention on disaster prevention and preparedness.
Right.
And really and truly, that's how the idea was born. So what you see happening this month here is a series of activities that is focused across the entire society.
Right.
So we'll be looking at the individual, the family, we're looking at households, we're looking at businesses, private sector, public sector, faith-based organization, civil society organization, and trying to get communities involved and better prepared in the event that we have a disaster.
I want to backtrack a little bit. How do we define what is a disaster and what is not a disaster?
That's an excellent question. Excellent question, because there's always this misunderstanding of the ODPM and when the ODPM gets involved.
Exactly.
I know you were going there.
I ain't going there. I'm just curious. I want to find out.
Right. So I like to make a distinction between a hazard,
right,
a severe hazard, and a disaster.
Right.
I always say a severe hazard is an event that could cause disruption in the society. The disaster, however, is going to cause such severe disaster that there's the possibility you could have loss of lives, your whole economy. Just in fact, the pandemic that we are in now, it's a disaster.
Right.
It shattered the economy, right? The whole social side of life takes on a different dimension. So just imagine the images last year, or the year before, in fact, of the Bahamas, when that hurricane sat over two islands, and what eventually happened. That is a disaster.
Right.
So there's a distinction between a hazard and a disaster. And a disaster really is this widespread disruption of society.
So then, but from what your example is, you're saying that a disaster would be more something that happens naturally, that nature does.
Well, not really, because we can also have a technological disaster.
Right.
Climate change, for example, is an example of man's impact
on nature.
On nature.
But as nature reacting to man. So it's still nature.
You can also have a chemical disaster.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So it could be both, you know.
I hear you. All right. So, Ms. Doerga, tell me what is the plans for this particular month when it comes to how can we take that holistic approach together?
Well, we want to take it into four major aspects, right? So we're looking at going hands-on this year. Because of the pandemic, we were able to do it virtually
before, yeah.
But now we're going to rope in that hands-on training. So we're going to focus on our fishing communities, mainly we have Orange Valley in Trinidad, and then we'll kick it aside to Speyside and Charlottesville and Tobago.
How important is it for you guys to link with the other ministries around the island doing this week?
It's critical, because as a whole of society impact, we need to involve everyone from agriculture to Defense Force, police, fire services, Ministry of Education, for instance. That's where it begins. It begins at home. It begins at the lowest level with your kids. Then they bring it home to their parents. And in the society, if we take it to the ministerial level, we have it in all the ministries. That way we can truly envelop the whole of society approach. And that's what we're aiming at.
Major, did you see a difference last year when you launched this Preparedness Month, this National Disaster and Prevention Preparedness Month? Did you see a difference in how society reacted during the wet season, for example?
Certainly, certainly. Because we were able to use media such as yourself, and again, thank you very much.
Not a problem.
We were able to get the message out to society that we have to bring about this change. Fortunately for our country, we haven't had a major disaster. And the whole idea of this Disaster Preparedness Month is, and why it is in May is important, because May is the month before the start of the Atlantic hurricane season.
Exactly.
You mentioned the rainy season as well. And throughout our region, it is the period when we have found the greatest disasters. In fact, with the exception of the volcano in St. Vincent and Grenadines last year, the period of June the 1st to November the 30th is the period when our region has been hit by the most disaster. So it is so important. So what we try attempting to do is prepare the society. And last year, you saw people getting involved. We had spoken word competitions, etc. So there's this whole excitement in the society, and we're hoping to move it further. Just like TTT, we're hoping to start going out, as Ms. Badloo Doerga said.
All right, so what are some of the things that people can get involved in that the ODPM is doing and that the Ministry of Works and Transport doing?
Well, firstly, we have the webinars that we have been hosting. We started one yesterday, where everyone is invited. We focused on disaster risk and climate change, so that we all are aware of what our hazards are. What are we looking for? Do we cut the tree that is hanging over our homes dangerously? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We need to look at the little things we can do.
Right.
All the community awareness that we can push right now, miking, we have to go through our villages, our remote towns, making sure everyone is aware of what you do in a situation like that. Prepared. Always keep something home. And never, you know.
When you say keep something home, what do you mean?
We're talking about disaster reserves.
Oh, so I wasn't sure where I was going with that, so I just had to ask now. All right, but tell me something. You are the director of the drainage division, right? Does that, how are we cleaning these drains? How has that been going? I don't know, I want to ask it in any fancy way, but we run into this problem every wet season, right?
That's
where
right.
we always see floods happening and we blame it on drainage and the clogging or the lack of drainage in some areas.
And then you focus on what is running through those drains. We have a sea of plastic.
Right.
We have a sea of bottles. We have refuse of all different things. You can name it, you see it in the river. And what we try to do in the drainage division is focus on the dry season where we can actually get out there and unclog those things, major water courses that is. The local drains around your homes, that is mostly for local government. But the major water courses that actually wreak havoc, those embankments, we make sure those are intact. We make sure those rivers are flowing freely. But the amount of garbage that we face, it's mind-boggling to see what our society does with a little bottle. It starts at home, again.
It does.
Awareness is something a little child can teach you. You don't throw your garbage in the river, you throw it in the bin. Something as simple as that. Every single thing counts. Every little piece of paper you think nobody noticing, and you just toss it in the drain, it adds up. So at the ministry, we're making sure that those water courses are clear. We're making sure those embankments are intact so that we don't have overtopping. We don't have not flash flooding, but street flooding in most cases.
How do you define the difference?
Well, flash flooding takes place when you have, as the word suggests, a rapid increase in the flow of the water. So it mainly takes place in the water courses. Street flooding is what we really see, and we call it flash flooding. But it's not really flash flooding, it's street flooding, where the roads become rivers and water is not flowing as fast as it should be.
And that's what we don't want.
That's what we don't want. We don't want any type of flooding. But you know, we can't stop flooding. We can mitigate against it as best as we can.
If we want to get more information about how we can be a part of this initiative by the ODPM and the Ministry of Works and Transport and all the other ministries involved, how can we get more information?
Right. So the ODPM website is the principal platform we're using. And on the website, you'll see a calendar with all the activities for the 4 weeks. But I also want to emphasize 3 things that people would want to look out for. One is on Friday here, we have a caravan on the Brian Lara Promenade.
Okay.
Big. Over 20-something ministries, agencies going to be presenting on the promenade. The following Friday, we're going to go down to Harris Promenade in San Fran.
Okay.
And then on the 27th, the fourth Friday, we're going to be in Tobago,
Nice.
Scarborough. So I want to ask people to go out and see the kinds of things that ministries and divisions are doing with regard to helping Trinidad and Tobago become more resilient.
And also find your place and how you can help as well.
An individual,
I think that part
as
is
a household,
important.
yes.
Yeah.
And learn the whole aspect of how do I contribute to making Trinidad and Tobago a more ready nation. That is important, yes.
And that's where we're going to leave it for this morning. I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and congratulations on another month of National Disaster Prevention and Preparedness. Hopefully that we'll be able to see the fruits from it again.
Certainly.
And it gets better and better with time. Ladies and gentlemen, that's retired Major General Rodney Smart, the CEO of the ODPM, and Katherine Badloo, Doerga, the Director of the Drainage Division at the Ministry of Works and Transport, joining us on the Now Morning Show to chat about National Disaster Prevention and Preparedness Month 2022. Stick around, we have more in store for you when we return.
Have you ever experienced an unexpected power outage? The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management has some important and simple tips to help you and your loved ones be better prepared for a power outage in the event of a disaster. 1. Ensure that you have candles and extra torch lights as alternate sources of lighting. 2. Keep fully charged power banks to recharge your devices. 3. Use hand-cranked radios to receive updates from official sources. 4. If possible, keep a power generator or AC inverter that can be connected to a car battery to use as an alternate source of power. 5. Ensure your grab-and-go bags and home emergency kits are packed and ready. The ODPM wants you and your loved ones to be better prepared. For more information, visit www.odpm.gov.tt. A message from the ODPM.